are at a place now, this being our, I think this would be our second last lecture, where we are able to look at the proposal. I think that we have all the tools we need, certainly, in terms of being able to further crystallize our project concept or venture concept, whatever we are looking at doing. And we also have some of the tools that we would need to engage in what would be our second piece of coursework that we are supposed to treat with when we return in semester 2. But of course, before we get there, we want to get at the stage now where, in the real world context, one would have submitted a proposal where there would be consideration to giving you some kind of capital or funding. And in the context of this course, you are being asked to present that in a 5-page proposal. So you would have done your proposal form, where you would have proposed initially what would have been your idea and what you thought would be the appropriate plan with which to do that idea. And so now we are at the proposal stage now, where you would flesh out and further elaborate on what you have written on that form. We can perhaps imagine this in the real world context to be the stage at which you might have had an initial meeting with an investor, and they've given you a kind of a preliminary yes. And so you're at the stage where the proposal is being written to either um, get the funding in full, or to determine how you may partner, or in the case of, from a marketing standpoint, it may be where you are able to advance the idea via the document in a more expansive way to attract sponsorship or some other form of business support. So the proposal is very important for these reasons. For you internally, the proposal is an important tool of allowing you to concretize your thoughts and your concept now beyond simply being an idea. In other words, class, this is where it gets serious. And this is where, which is our second reason, this is where you get to tweak and you get to fine tune and you get to work backwards on what you would have initially presented to ensure now that it's all bona fide and it all makes sense. Everybody understands those reasons?
Yes, Dr.
Yeah.
Tom.
Anyone, any questions about that so far? Okay.
How, Dr.
Yes?
Tom,
Okay. Yeah.
how much time do you have to work on this in terms of, uh, deadline time, in terms of, what's the deadline like?
Are you seeing the shared screen?
Yes. Oh, it was kind of
Right.
blurry on that slide.
Right.
Okay, I'm seeing it.
Carried it up a bit now. Is that better now? Can everybody see that better now?
Woo! Yeah, I can see it.
Right. So this is another aspect of it that is real. This is reality, Oliman. If you have a proposal to submit for a business concept, nobody's giving you weeks and weeks to do it, and months. It doesn't work like that. A proposal,
I understand
sometimes you
perfectly.
have sometimes you have days. And so the idea of it is to simulate it as much as possible, that you are being trained such that you could competently do this when, of course, you graduate within the time frames that are sometimes given. So I would not be daunted though by that. As laid out here, and today's class, we're really going to go through every aspect of what you see here, because I want to know that you have clarity about everything that is expected of you here, and that it is then left up to you to ensure that you can fit that in 5 pages. You see? Um, what else could I say about the deadline? Sometimes, if you don't make the deadline in the real world context, sometimes they don't accept the proposal at all. That has to be borne in mind. That usually is it. There was a time when they might have deducted points that might put you at a disadvantage of others, but that usually is no longer the case. It's a case of if you don't make the deadline, it not being considered, forget about it. So that you want to treat the structure that is offered here also as a way to gauge your time. I hope you're taking notes, but we're recording anyway. A way to gauge your time between now and the 21st, which is why this class is strategic. This class has been placed there deliberately, um, so that you know, working backwards, that Monday, December 21st, you should just be reviewing what you have to submit. Right. Any questions? Anything bouncing off the mind at this point in time before we get into the actual structure? Okay. So broadly, your proposal, your practicum proposal really tries to ask and have you answer a few questions. What, why, who, how, and expected outcome. So what, why, so what is the nature of this project? What is the vision? Why is this something important to do? In other words, what's the big deal with this? Who are you primarily targeting with this? And even why are you targeting these particular groups or markets or communities? How are you going to approach doing your project planning and development? And of course, how do you justify that? And then what do you hope to get out of it? And nowadays, a lot of venture capitalists are very interested in understanding from proposers what is it that they hope to get out of a project that they're proposing to them. People like to know, well, what is it you believe you can derive from this that you're asking me to put my money in? It basically boils down to that. So that even though expected outcome tends to be treated in a very kind of conclusion kind of way, it has become very important in the sense that whilst it's not articulated in a personal way, it is a soul searching kind of question, because you want, of course, to be sure that you're able to convince the funder, the donor, the investor that the project has several levels of value, not just in terms of its capacity to make money. Everybody understands that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions or comments from anyone? Anybody? Okay. So let's take the first one.
Actually, sorry, Dr. Tal, sorry, I
Yes,
have a question. I
sure,
just
go
wanted to
ahead.
know, in terms of this paper, this proposal, is it
Mhm.
expected that we do a lot of citing and all of that per MLA, or is it supposed to be more business focused so that somebody with money could read it and be like, yes, you
Yes,
understand?
it's supposed to be business oriented, most
Okay, so not
definitely.
heavy, heavy academics.
Um, this is arts, culture, and enterprise management. So this is a
Yeah, but
business proposal.
okay, so not heavy on
Mhm.
the academic citations and stuff.
No, no, no.
Okay,
I mean,
just
if it is that you need to reference something to make a point, so be it. That would
yeah,
always be welcome. And most certainly, I think we're not gonna go down into the other reports right now because I want to stay focused on this one. I will
okay,
well imagine certainly for the final document, there will be the encouragement of reaching to the literature, because at the end of the day, it's a postgraduate diploma. And everything does have its context in some kind of academic foundation, especially at
yeah,
the postgraduate level. But certainly
okay,
for a proposal, this is really about, as you say, that the
that,
investor would read this, get excited. I think that's what you
yeah,
basically were asking.
the self,
You know,
okay,
yeah, it's articulated in a dynamic way that impresses at the same time is not that you're not using academic standard of writing, you in the sense of you're not using casual phrases, and Americans tend to do that. It's not
Yeah,
that at all. Not that.
understood.
It's business writing, but it's formal business writing. Everybody understands that.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
there's no I and we in here either. Dr. Tal abhors that. Anybody I've taught, I don't deal up in the I and the we. You write formal because it's so easy to not know what to do if you continue along the course of practice where you use the I and the we a lot, if you understand what I'm saying. And then when you need to write otherwise, one can easily find oneself challenged, because I do see sometimes people write, they can't help but put that I or we. Now, when you're presenting, it's not necessarily a bad thing, um, because you're engaging the investor. You're saying, well, we consider, or I propose, or I am suggesting, and I don't necessarily see a problem with that. But certainly for the writing of your proposal, we want to try to stay with that formal business standard of writing. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So we know it's 5 pages, but we have some questions to answer. No, you're not in undergrad, so I'm not going to tell you how many pages to write what. That is something that you have to determine. But you got to have it all fit in 5 pages. So what is the nature and scope of the project concept or business concept? Where do you think you could take that information from? Have you been asked this before? Anybody? Yes, Salima? Anyone?
Well, yes, we were asked this during the worksheets,
That's
specifically
right.
the very first.
That's right, exactly. So that to help you remain succinct and to ensure that your proposal flows off of what you would have um, received a nod for already, you can refer to that to help you to construct that segment. What is the nature and scope of the project concept or business concept? Let us dig deep into that question though. Do we believe or perceive that there is a difference between nature and scope? And if so, what do you see that to be? So do we see there to be a difference between the nature, and then they said and scope? Anybody?
Good evening, everybody.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Hi, good
Jerry.
evening.
May I?
Yes, sure. Go ahead,
All right.
please.
I am looking at nature as in the, if you want, how the project would look then, what it's about. That's in nature. But scope
Mm-hmm.
has to do with breadth of, I guess, the interest, if you want, of the organization. Something, and when I think of
Mm-hmm.
scope, I think of breadth.
Mm-hmm.
How wide you will go, how um
Ah,
detailed if you want.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Anyone else? Anybody wants to give further value added to that?
I'm
Anybody?
guessing here, I'm saying that nature has to do with like categories and
Mm-hmm.
um, like areas, I'm guessing, in context.
Mm-hmm.
And scope has to do
Mm-hmm.
with what Naomi said, the breadth or the activities or these that
Mm-hmm.
would be engaged in to get the business
Yes,
on the road.
yes. Anytime I see scope, I always think of parameters, because I could be in the business of being a knowledge broker where creative entrepreneurship is concerned. But is it that Creatives Clinic, my business, is it that Creative Clinics deals with everything on the creative entrepreneurship? Or is it that Creatives Clinic focus on a particular aspect? on giving advice on particular aspects of the creative industries, you see. So I always see scope as parameters and how far you can go and where do you believe you limit yourself, because we, as we know, for most of what you all are doing, it falls under what we would call a small, medium, or micro creative enterprise. And so it's not likely that you would have a scope that means it's all encompassing. And if we accept that, can you think of another reason why at this juncture it's important to be able to clearly articulate your scope? Where else would we see that impacting when we go on to fully develop our plan, whether it's feasibility, business, or strategic marketing? Where else might scope then become have implication?
Well, in terms of scope with regards to strategic marketing, it can impact where you choose to have your ads. So, for example, if your scope is with regards to your target audience, if your scope are parents of children between the ages of 3 to 10, and you are able to figure out what social media platforms or what platforms these people use, that will inform how far you're going to go in terms of where you're going to spread your resources with regards to reaching out to the various social media, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether you'll have to do newspaper ads. So it can impact the cost of the ads that you would have to do, because you begin to figure out where you're going to place these ads and how much that will cost you.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much for that, Jeremy. That's quite correct. So it impacts on marketing. And I heard Jeremy hint at another one where else it may have implications for. Can anyone else tell me what that is?
Yeah, for me, based on just to jump off from what Jeremy said there, I'm thinking budgeting.
Yes, yes, the dollars. Yes, yes. Because as a small, micro, and medium enterprise, we can't do everything, can we? And we learned this last week when we talked about resource audit, not so? So that you know that if it is that we have a broad scope, it means that our resource audit will have to be extensive. And did we not agree last week that that has implications then for our budget and our cash flow statements and all these things, class? So that scope, therefore, becomes very important at this stage, and we give it thought. We really give it some serious thought as to how what we are articulating as scope, how well it matches nature. And I want to come back on nature now. Sometimes I work backwards. Sometimes I try to figure out my scope, and then based on that, I try to look back on how I might have initially defined this thing and see if, in articulating my scope, if how I have defined this thing, if it correctly captures how it is I perceive this business to be. What is the essence then of this business? Does everybody understand that? Does that make sense to
Yes,
you?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
because
Yeah. So this is why nature and scope are there. So in a way, we could even begin to break down this 5 page, because nature might be one paragraph and scope might be another, you know? But in all, it is that we recognize that every element that is presented here in a bullet is important. It's not just words thrown there. So there's nature. What is the essence of this business? What is this business about? And we've already recognized that from our very first worksheet. It required us to arrive at that. And then using that, helping us, we go at scope to be able to identify what are the main activities of this business. And I think that that's very important. And I believe we well captured reasons why just now from our little discussion there as to why that's important. We keep that in mind. It helps to discipline us. Now, let me play devil's advocate and ask a question. Having just said that, is it possible for us, for any one of us to perhaps have too narrow a scope? Is that possible? Or is it narrower the better? Let's hear you.
I
Repeat the
think
question.
I
Sorry.
think narrower might be good because narrower means niche.
Okay, let's talk about that some more. So narrower means niche, but suppose that doesn't work out. Does that mean then that the business crashes? Is that possible? Because you're a small micro enterprise. Is there at any point in time where narrower is not good? I'm asking for a friend.
Well, in the case you just described, yeah, narrow means tragedy. But
Because you are a
I'm guess
small micro medium enterprise. Okay, so let me try to go with what Janelle said. So I have a sweet parlor and I sell indigenous sweets. I only sell indigenous sweets. What are indigenous sweets? What do we have? Penny ball, tamarind ball, sugar. I like all these things, by the way. Tamarind
Lime
ball,
balls.
sugar cake.
Sugar
What
cake,
is that? Sugar
popo.
Um,
cake, nut
tulum.
cake.
purple
Me
ball.
really, I
Tulum.
guess I could sell it to pop ball. So are you seeing
Fake.
where, but right. So that is a way in which what Janelle initially said can work because it's narrow, it's focused on indigenous sweets. Not so, Janelle, it's not doing corn curls, it's not doing popcorn, it's not doing ice cream, it's
I think
doing
it's doing
indigenous
indigenous
sweets.
sweets. But I think if that was only purple balls alone, if it was that
That,
narrow, I think this is
that's
where you might have fall
right.
apart.
That's
Because
right.
I
That's
don't know
right.
but I
Correct. Correct.
consistently love a purple ball. Know how long it's in season. So
That's right. Exactly. Correct. Everybody gets that? Like, how big is the market for purple ball? And it green too. Ain't it green?
It could be orange too.
I never see it
it is
orange.
very green a lot of times.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's
it's
mainly
fluorescent.
orange.
Um,
I've
it could
seen
be
Any
yellow.
color.
Yeah, any
pink
color.
as well.
And
Any color. What you want?
And guess what? If we jump back by Jeremy's point, how many men eat papa ball? Of all the indigenous sweets, like your market done kind of narrow there already. What
Right.
is the male female breakdown there? Jeremy always eat papa ball. Jeremy and
No,
Joshua and Aaron always eating papa ball. That big green thing. Can you
I don't.
see guys doing that? You just eat them?
No,
No. You see? You see what I'm
Especially if
saying?
it okay, let me
Oh Lord. So this is the thing, just how we are brainstorming. You can remember this business is real, not so class. So we have to, even at this stage in articulating nature and scope, we have to imagine, my favorite word, imaginate. We have to see our business live. And so in that regard, from this juncture in doing that, this is how we infuse the passion. And this is how we get the energy to jump off the page at the investor. This is sometimes how the investor is convinced, I want to put my money in this. Everybody gets what I'm saying?
yeah, miss.
Okay, great.
Yes,
When
miss.
I hear the lull, I panic, I feel the internet drop on me. Oh gosh, because they give trouble whole day. Right. Okay, great. So any questions again about nature and scope? So I think we've covered it. We know too broad. This is like the Three Bears story and Goldilocks. We know it's too broad is not so good, too narrow is not so good. So we go in with the middle chair just right. You know what I mean? It's a case of that really. You want, and let's add another thing inside of there. Should it not, the determination of broad or narrow in scope, should that not match what you're doing? So, for example, if we take Psyche's project, Psyche, what do you think you are, broad or narrow in scope?
I would say that I'm broad in scope. And it needs I have to trim it down some more still.
Would you say you're in a niche market?
Yes.
Right. And so this is a way in which can help us to determine whether we're going to go left more, which is broad, or if we're going to go right, which is narrow. Because if we're niche, it means chances are we're offering something specialized. So just like my indigenous candies shop, I am narrow because I'm niche, because everybody don't eat sweets and everybody don't like local sweets. But I am offering an array of sweets. So you might want to give consideration to that. So it's not necessarily that you're broad. You may have a narrow scope in terms of being niche, but within there, you have a select range of offerings that allows to you to appeal to a particular demographic range in there based on what you're offering. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Think of it as this
Yes.
thing that has recently taken over the Caribbean that rivals indigenous. Because I am amazed that no one has really tried to offer the indigenous sweet shop. This is one of my project ideas actually. All they don't teach my business idea. All I'm gonna go down and Port of Spain and see the store now, I will cry. But this is an idea I've been toying with for many, many years. This same indigenous sweet shop. Look at this macaroon business. How many all eat
Had
macaroon?
it in Trinity Mall. It was called Oh Fudge.
Yeah,
I
but
do
that
it.
is the problem. That was the problem with it. It had it in long circular too. Why I naming it Old Fudge? You see, that was the problem. You see, the thing is indigenous. If I want a name for that shop, I go into Big I go in and talk to Olimal and them. I go in fact finding. I want that what I name it is something that is very Trini-esque. So that when visitors come, like that's like when you Google that, you find in that shop immediately. You see? This is sometimes we have to, even in the names that we offer, particularly when we're niche, we want to generate that energy even out of the name as well, so that it resonates with the niche market. But going back to the point I was making, macaroons. Everybody, has anyone tried macaroons? I see they're kind of becoming big now in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
Anybody?
I have never
Macaroon?
tried.
Eh. Yeah, my daughter like this thing, eh? All you know how much a macaroon cost, Melena? You know how much a macaroon cost, girl?
I've
Anybody?
actually forgot to put it, so I really don't know.
Macaroon come like the Mercedes Benz of sweets,
Hmm.
And thing
It's
light,
like
light, light, light.
$100 for six or something like that.
Macaroon come like the Mercedes Benz of sweets all year. But check it now. In Barbados, and as far as I know, this is not indigenous to the Caribbean, but look what they did in Barbados. So it's macaroon, right? But the leading store in Barbados that sells macaroons, the name is Green Monkey. And Green Monkey is very indigenous to Barbados. You imagine that? So they're luring the visitor inside of there, Green Monkey, and then it's like all of these delights. I must ask them next time I go, why did they name it Green Monkey? And they're even shipping as well. So they did the reverse, which is this thing is not indigenous to Barbados, but they have applied what we would call Barbadiana, as we would say, to it, right? Drilling in further into the example of the macaroon, coming back to what we're talking about narrow and broad, it's only macaroon that they sell, but it's all kind of thing I see in there. Do you understand? The macaroon is done and offered in all kinds of ways. And so it comes back to the point I was making about the sweet shop and what Janelle was saying, that you may be narrow in scope in terms of the niche, but within there you have an array of offerings that would delight the particular market. So that if one thing don't sell, the point is there's something else you have there that can appeal to the market sensibility. But at the same time, it's the same basic ingredients that you need in terms of psyche. Is the same fabric or materials that you need to be, of course, producing this particular niche brand of fashion. Everybody understands that?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Good so far? Helpful so far?
Yes. Very helpful.
Right.
Extremely
Okay.
so.
All right. So, any more questions or any other point we want to make about nature and scope before we go to the second one? Okay. So the second one asks about the vision and the broad goal. So what is the vision and the broad goal? And this is where our first set of exercises on strategic assessment would come in handy, not so? So you'd go back to that where you would have figured out your entrepreneurial mindset, that being one. You would have also tried to identify your strategic intent, not so? And somewhere in there, one of the worksheets would have encouraged you also to have the broad goal behind the venture. So you should have, in answering that question, you should be able to articulate your entrepreneurial mindset. And based on that, you can create your vision statement, right? You should be able to articulate your strategic intent, even though it is not specified there, but I think you should, because that is going to help you to create your broad goal. Does that make sense? If you know what's your strategic intent, you should be able to arrive at a broad goal for the project. Agreed or no?
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Because what does the phrase strategic intent mean for us? What does that mean to us? Let me say that. What do we mean? What does that mean when we talk about strategic intent? Anybody? We agree with the statement, but like we know what it means. What does strategic intent mean?
Does it
Trying
mean
to without using the word intent.
What does the word intent mean? What we intend to do, right? Is it like that for you? Because like in my mind, when I hear
is it
intent,
like a
I'm
is it
like, well,
like
intent means what I intend to do. Go ahead, Olimal.
in the different plan of action, the plan of action and the steps to execute this plan of action in terms of to get you to the point where you need to get, but it had to be they're very specific. It doesn't mean that.
No, because then that would be a whole lot that you're writing there. Your strategic intent is like your deliberate purpose, is like what you deliberately intend to have happen. That's why it's called strategic. So your strategic intent, maybe in the case of my creatives clinic, is to offer a one-stop advisory space that runs like a doctor's office to creative entrepreneurs that is viable and at the same time is developmental. That's a strategic intent. I am balancing the finances, the financial viability with the development, with a development goal for my clients. You see?
So is it like a mission?
If it's like a,
Mission
if
is
it's
like
like a,
mission. Is
it,
it?
it is like a mission in the sense that normally in strategy development, the strategic intent is used to help craft the mission. So it's like, so because the mission would normally join stakeholders and all this thing, but you would always see within the mission statement some kind of intent or purpose, not so? So it is that aspect of the mission statement where you see intent and purpose, that is really the strategic intent. Does everybody understand that?
Not quite. I'm a little bit confused about the.
So a strategic intent is a deliberate purpose, having a deliberate purpose where something is concerned. This is what I intend to get out of this. It is called a strategic intent because the parts that Olimal just said, you're going to develop all those things to show how you would arrive at that. When you look at a mission statement in terms of what you ask, it is not a mission statement. But what I'm saying to you is when you look at most mission statements, most well-crafted mission statements, you would see certain elements there. They'll talk about their stakeholders, they'll talk about the vision, but inside of there, the strategic intent is normally there. It's normally some phrase there that reflects the overall purpose of the business. Understand now? So I'm saying to you that strategic intent is sometimes used to craft missions. Strategic intent can also be used to help you to arrive at your broad goal. So let's go back again. So vision, you know, your vision comes from your entrepreneurial mindset. Agreed? Everybody understands that part, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But they said that you have to do a broad goal. And I'm saying to you, yes, you could say the purpose of this business is to, but I don't want you to go and just say it's to, but it does not match to a strategic intent, which when you do your interim report, that is going to be asked of you. And I will pick it up because remember, I'm a strategist. So I'm saying to you, in creating your broad goal, the best thing that you should do is articulate your strategic intent from now. It's not a math thing, it's more a kind of you looking inward and asking yourself what it is you want this business to do. That is your strategic intent. What it is you want this venture to do. I want my creative clinic to be a money making machine that adds to the development of its clients. That is my strategic intent. So everything I do is about that. Right? I have no charity there. If I want to do a charity, I'll create the Creative Clinic Foundation. Do you understand? And at the same time, I will never make money where it puts my clients at a disadvantage to say that they are not growing out of whatever I may be offering. Do you understand?
Yeah, I got that.
Right, everybody. So that is my strategic intent. So based on that, I could then craft a broad goal for Creatives Clinic so that my broad goal will match my strategic intent so that when I continue now to develop various documents, whether it's a business plan or a strategic marketing plan, everything is in sync. I don't find myself where I've said one thing here, but then what I've said on the other side now, when I do strategic analysis, does not match up to the broad goal that I would have articulated elsewhere. Is that clear now?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay, great, awesome. Good, good. Naomi, you're good. Melina,
I am.
Jeremy,
Thank you.
right.
I'm a
Melina,
little
clear? That is.
yeah.
Oh,
Kind of.
Joshua not. Is Joshua and Nivedita not here with us today? Over Jaron gone. He not there. He was here, but he gone. Okay. Well, anyway, we're
Jaron is
recording,
having
so that's
internet
good.
issues.
Yes, I surprised I last so long. I am thankful. I whole day I could not load up slides and thing. I said, look, you see me, I ain't able, but I was thankful this is what we had to do today, which did not necessitate that. And anything I try to put up too much, it lags and it drops out and oh, it has been a bad day today for meetings. But I'm cheerful because maybe God said it's time we all rest. Who knows? But everybody has complained today. It has been a lot. All right. So let's look at. So that captures the what. So now we look at the why. What does this why seem like? In project world, what is another word we may see this referred to as? Why is this an important venture to pursue?
Motivation.
Oh, in project world, like what would you see it if you had to look at a project plan document? What would you see that as?
Justification.
Could it be rational?
Yes, justification or rationale. Correct. Both are correct. I like to go with justification. I find sometimes rationale kind of takes you along a kind of aims kind of road. But justification fits well because in your mind, you're constantly reminded that this is the part where you got to convince the reader, the investor, that this is an important project to pursue, and you are using what may be the challenge. You're identifying the challenges or the gaps or the deficits that the project would be serving, would be correcting, or would be filling a void. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the justification will help the investor to know whether or not there's a market for this. Because once you could justify, it's
or
yeah.
or but let's take a step back, Jeremy. It will help the investor to know whether or not there's a need for this. There's a felt need for
Right.
this, and by
Yeah.
extension, that there's a market for it. Making sense now? Is the two things you see.
Yeah.
Everybody understand what the term felt need means? Like it real. It's not no. I mean, people create businesses off of all kinds of whimsical things, but there's still a felt need for it. I mean, if I go into the local landscape, we now at a place where private zest going to reign supreme. I went on somebody's page today and I screenshotted, I'm going to write a paper on it. I screenshotted 5 private zest parties that coming up in the next week or so. But I hear that we are locked down. So there clearly is a felt need, and by extension, based on how the marketing look and who would have been marketing it, there clearly is a market for it. And anybody who's looking to make money, that's really all they're concerned about. Your felt need. The reason why I use that example is that I want you to understand, class, that your felt need does not necessarily have to be something noble. And Janelle, I think this resonates with you. What may be perceived as noble in terms of the arts and culture, but it's more about whether or not you can show that there's a need, and therefore by extension that there's a market out there.
Wait. I feel like you're saying that my project isn't noble.
For some people, they would not perceive it to be so in the range of the arts and culture.
Yeah,
I don't.
people don't see luxury,
I am
noble.
I am a businesswoman. As long as it making sense that it look like it can make money, I do business. I don't judge art. When people talk about good art, but I have my personal views.
Okay.
I am someone who for 2 years managed Denise Bell Fund. Will I go on a stage and wind down to the ground and scoop my Bamsey? Not necessarily, no. But I recognize that I had a good product and I worked with it. You see? So and she clearly filled the void. And you'll be surprised to know when she performed, it was mostly females who will be at the front of the stage and not men. Interesting, huh? So the thing is, all the investor wants to know is what is that need? What is that gap that your venture is filling? And therefore, by extension, the markets that are possible or are out there. You might even be creating new markets. And so when you get into your interim report and your final document, again now, what you identify as markets now should match back to what you would have put in this one page when you did your project justification. It makes sense? Does it make sense, class?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's shaping up. Anybody getting excited yet, or people still fearful? Because by now, I mean, I have an idea what everybody doing in the class. So what I'm saying here should give some excitement. Anybody worried, or everybody bubbling with a little excitement?
I'm very excited. I'm running over.
Olima, what about you? I think that should erase some of the concerns you might have, because your project as well has a need. You see, once, and this is why these proposals are so important, because it allows you to cut through and see your project clearly. And from here on, when you do that proposal, you could speak your project to anybody with conviction. Remember that for every project, there is its own investor. Every investor, if you ever watch Shark Tank, you realize that there are some good projects that come there, but every investor does not jump at it because it may not be his thing. You see? So it's the same thing here. That doesn't mean that your project necessarily is a bad project, but what you always have to do to ensure that your justification is strong, that you can clearly show that this project is a winner because it is filling a gap. And so if you look here, you will see in brackets it has, when in answering this question, this should reflect the challenges, deficits, or needs the venture can address. Do we understand the difference between these three things? Is a challenge the same thing as a deficit? Is it the same thing as a need?
Challenge and
No.
no,
No,
it's not the same.
Malena.
No,
Oh,
it's
tell me,
no, it's not the
Malena.
same.
Well, Alma started to talk just now.
Okay,
I
go
was
ahead.
I was saying, sorry, that challenge, no, they're not the same. Challenges are issues that could potentially stop your progress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think deficits are things that missing.
Yes, something is lacking. Mm-hmm.
Something's lacking in general, and these are general things what you have to get to make this project
Yeah,
work
you don't have. Well, not you have to get to make the project work, but what is not existent out there,
out there, right?
right?
Okay,
But it is obviously there's a need. You can convince us that there's a need for this. So challenge is, as she said, there may be a setback. So so for example, suppose the European Union decided to put in 500 million euro in the Caribbean for creative entrepreneurship. They give it to, it's spread it across the countries, but of course, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and Jamaica get its money. And well, OECS get, but it gone under the OECS to spread across those islands. But the European Union say you got to submit proposals and to get this money, but channeling through the government. The government recognize one of two things: either that they don't have the persons who can judge the proposals properly, or that the proposals coming in, was there's some good ideas inside of there, the proposals are not written that when they send them up to the European Union to get the second nod, that they will get it. So like this money go just sit down there to the embarrassment of the region. Okay? That's a challenge. It may require then you might find a business starting up. Dr. Tom might create a subsidiary of a creatives clinic that would deal with that, because there's a lot of money and it allows for a lot of people to submit proposals. So a business could be created to address that challenge, which is either aiding people to write these proposals and at the same time training government officials what they need to know to be able to judge these proposals. That is responding to a challenge. Everybody understands that?
yes.
By a show of hands. I feel like I
So we
lost
have
some.
to question.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to identify a challenge and pose a solution as well for the purposes of the proposal.
No, in the justification, all they want to know is the challenge that you're responding to, if it is a challenge. I'm going to go through all three. Based
Oh,
on
thing is like
your
a
business
solution.
venture, you will know whether yours is responding to challenges. So I use that example to show you was a challenge that my business could be responding to. A deficit now is when something is lacking. So that would be like in your case, there's a lack of something.
Mm-hmm.
So that lack is what you are responding to, not so.
Okay, so you are providing the solution as your
Your
venture.
business is the
Your
solution.
venture is
Your
okay.
business, your solution is the business.
Okay.
But that is not written there like that. You are all yours. You are saying, okay, so why is this important? This is why is this venture important to do? I don't know
Because
what
there's a lack of
yours.
certain things.
Malena Virtual Tools Associates
Wow.
seeks to respond to the following gaps in the market where music education is concerned, and you identify the deficits, because gap is a deficit, you see.
Okay.
If there are
Okay, I
challenges,
understand now.
you identify them. You say, additionally, it is noted that there are these challenges which it is believed millennial associates can also respond to. These are, and you say what the challenges are.
Okay.
Right? A need is more like what Janelle is doing. A need is like what Naomi is doing. Even though for Naomi, she may have deficits and needs, because if there's a lack of marketing, there may also be the need in terms of the fact that they're not able to, they may not even have markets. They may have stakeholders, but in having now a strategic marketing plan now, they could begin to have markets to talk about having a market presence, and by extension having markets as opposed to stakeholders. Am I correct, Naomi?
Yes, you are.
Right. Same thing with Janelle. On the other end, in terms of her project, is a need, is responding to a need. There's a recognition that women are not able to express themselves sensually, particularly through the use of the arts. That's a need, and it's a real need. It's bubbling inside of there. Juxtapose a kind of interconnection between all of the industries that deal with sensuality and the other aspects of the art that have been known to engage in intimacy, just that the Caribbean has been slow where this is concerned. So that's a need. Everybody gets that now? So do we see the difference? So we got to know based on, so you see, this is where now this first one comes back to being handy, nature and scope. Because when once we know our nature and scope, then we will know what that trying to do. Is it trying to respond to needs or needs? Is it trying to respond to challenges? Or is it trying to respond to deficits? Right? Hillary's on sounding like somewhere between deficit and need. Because there's really no such thing. People dance and they go and play sport, and well, they more response to sport. But people who are in the performing arts using their muscles and stuff like that, they come home and lie down. Nobody takes them on with that. If you're a sportsman, you have a spa. But nobody is studying
Yeah,
anybody who dancing
I feel it's a need. I feel
and
it's a need.
twirling themselves wrong a pole and thing. Nobody studying them. Because in the first place, they figure that is a joke thing. True or false? But the sportsman now, he has his doctor. Where are the doctors for dancers? Think about it. Where are they? You see? So that seems to me like a need. Everybody understands that one? Any questions about that? I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on that as well.
I think it's clearer now. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
So look, Jeremy's point coming here now. Who is or are the primary target markets, community, and why? So you see, Jeremy, look at there. And look where it comes, look where it follows from. So after we've been able to do that project justification, this is where now we want to convince that the real markets linked to this now are these markets. So if it is that you can put those things in a, you could probably come here in a table and put back whatever were the challenges or deficits or needs and put next to them a clear idea, do a kind of profile, say what that person looks like that would want this business because they're having that challenge. So in the case of Melena, children doing CSEC, maybe children doing CAPE, maybe children who are doing private exams, but these are all different market segments. Maybe children who are young, who like music, who want to get a, them and the parents decide they want to get a head start. We do have some musical genius across the region. You see, so you can articulate, give that person a face almost. Use the what you're learning with Miss Brooks. you know, Demographics, male, female. You see, right? School, what's school age or level of professionalism. So you try then to identify who your primary target market is. You see this word primary. Do they want you to identify every single person that likely to buy your product or service? I'm asking.
No, just the main
No,
ones.
just the main
And why is that? Why is it? Why is that? If they say, well, they want to be sure that you're gonna make money, and then why is it they telling you, well, I don't want to hear about every single person that go buy your product or service? Why is it that they don't want that? Why is it only the main ones, the key ones?
Because you want to show that there is an audience or a target for it.
Yeah, that is an overwhelming number. Sometimes the proposals require you to project as well. Like sometimes when we do proposals, they ask us about male female ratio and stuff like that. You know, for those who are doing strategic marketing plans, you may find yourself drilling down into those things as well. But guidance for those things are online. So I'm not worried for you. It's not anything to be concerned about. But that kind of grit is, as Melina just said, is to be sure that this market does exist. That is not just a case of, you know, you just pick this out of your head because it sounds like it could fit. Any other questions or comments about that? What's the difference between target market and target community?
But I would think the community is macro and the target market might be micro, in the sense that the community could be, say for instance, all the, I'm gonna take on my thing here, right? All the students in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. But the target market now will be secondary school, secondary age children.
And might I challenge you, wouldn't the community also include the teachers?
Exactly so, yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Everybody understands that. So do we recognize that if we are conscientious about what we're doing, we would see it possible that in some instances we have a community as well as we have target markets? Because community could be another way of looking at key stakeholders as well. But you make the differentiation in terms of the markets being the ones that you're targeting to make the money off of. But you need the community too, because the community is what you'll use to spread your goodwill, your PR, you know, which of course, as we know, redounds into marketing eventually. Agreed?
Yes, and I want to agree with you too, Dr. Todd, because like with my project, when it comes at the stakeholders, we still kind of depend on the goodwill of corporate sponsors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone else? Does the point resonate with what they're doing? Anyone else? Community vis-a-vis target markets. Because one can write it up and say, well, this is the primary community, or these are the primary community. This is the community that this venture would locate in or would be of interest to, but but within that, these are the primary target markets. You can articulate it like that. Yes, Hillary, go ahead.
I think I fall into that category.
Right. Yes. Okay. Olimal, for sure. Do you see that or no?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out now who would be my, which is primary, just community, but I'm working it out in terms of, um, for me, I think like a smaller group of people. Like for me, it could be for the educational value of it, it might be the students, but then the larger community could be people all over. I
No,
think.
can be people all over. People all over can't be used to define community stakeholders nor target market. In people is made up of all kinds of people, and people are not
So that's
all
for
people,
specific.
or people are not going to be interested in what you're offering. So you have to be clear
So you
as
call
to
to
who
community
constitutes your community
tourists. Okay,
and who would be your target markets for what you're doing.
cool.
Everybody understands that?
Yeah.
Okay. You would notice that with the you have to give justification so that our discussion there, I hope, is useful. It's not just that you get to say who these target markets are and who's your community, but why are those chosen? You know, so why is it secondary school children? Right? Why Jeremy, yours are the 7 to 13 age group? Is that the age group? I don't know. I just assume that. How far do you go
To
up?
10.
To 10. Look at that. So it's 3 to 10.
Yeah.
Right. So why is it that? You know, Janelle, who are you targeting? Why those particular groups? There was a festival project. It's a business now, actually, and his sister does part of the business. One of the hear me festival project. My apologies. That is in the other course. There was an ACAM Practicum project years ago, and you all might know the business, you know, where the student she did the project was, oh gosh, I know what the business is, but I want to remember what the project was. Trying to remember how she put it. It's a studio, and she taught women pole dancing as a form of exercise and, of course, to do with their self empowerment. And the sister now runs the business, actually. I think the studio is somewhere in Quebec. Are you all familiar with that business? That was a ACAM project. Anybody knows of that business? She some Casa, I think it's called now. Huh?
Nice, but I'm interested.
Yeah, you know that business, Janelle? She Casa.
I think I've heard of it already.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, her sister was one of my ACAM students. That was her project. That was an amazing, intriguing thing to me. She was determined, and she was ahead of her time because I think like could be at least as much as 4 years since then is when I started to see online like there's studios in New York and people all around now teaching women how to dance on pole and what have you. You understand? But
Was
this was
great movie
she
come.
she was she was in the third cohort of ACAM. That's the tell you how long ago. That's when I was still running ACAM. That's the tell you how long ago that was. Yeah, her name is slipping me right now. But she insisted. She said, "Oh no, Dr. Tal, I doing this." She said, this is a sure bet." And the sisters running the business now. Yeah. That was an ACAM project. So that in a case like that, that's very niche. But she was able to discern that within, and this is the point why I'm making this because of what Alima said about people. So it's not women, but she was able to give some distinctions as to the women who may have wanted to come to that studio. So housewives who feel they're out of shape, who want to build their confidence, dancers who want to expand their repertoire, students who are into gymnastics. She was able to give some serious defined markets. And I think that's one reason why the project did well. You see? So it's not just you can't say women or just people, but within there, one can easily, if you think about the essence of your project, so you see we come back to that word essence, nature, and the scope of the project, you should be able to break down people or women, if that be the case. Any questions or comments about that?
No,
Okay.
nice.
Okay, so we're coming on to the last two. So how is the project planning and development to be approached? So tell me what you think that means. How is the
So
project?
this include, sorry, would this include now what we were along the lines of what we were doing last week in terms of who we have to go to, what resources we need to source,
Now, first of
how we
all,
going, how are we going to actually bring this project or business idea to life in terms of what is our role in it?
so it's partly that, but let us give attention to this first part, Melina. What is it that we are being taught in class that reflects this? What are we supposed to be doing that reflects the project planning? What will we ultimately be rendering that reflects that?
Your model.
Yes,
model.
whether it's
Yeah.
the business plan or the
Feasibility or the
business
marketing.
plan or the feasibility. So this part is about saying, well, okay, so is a feasibility. In your case, you're doing feasibility or business, Melina?
You marketing strategy.
Oh, you're
Sorry.
doing marketing. My apologies. Hey, I have to refamiliarize myself with your project. Okay, so you're going to be doing a strategic marketing strategy
Mhm.
plan. Apologies. So how is this project plan going? So this project plan is going to be approached by way of a strategic marketing plan,
And
and
well,
then explain what that will entail. So it's like a broad, a
like
kind
a
of
summary
breakdown.
of a marketing plan.
Yes, yes, yes. Because at the stage of the proposal, they want to know that you're clear on how you would embark on your planning. So it identifies the breakdown, there's the components of that. And then now the part that Melina mentioned, how you're going to go about doing those things in that breakdown. So, is it going to involve you doing background research, testing of something, interviewing people? You get it? Focus
Mm,
groups, market testing. Everybody gets that?
Yep.
yeah.
So let's go again, Melina. So we know that your approach is strategic marketing plan.
Yeah.
In the first instance, they want a breakdown in terms of what you perceive to be the main components that comprise in that, because I'm asking about how you're going and approach it. So it's a strategic marketing plan, and these are the things that this plan going on in comprise. To be able to write this plan based on these things I've just stated up there, these are some of the things that I will have to be engaging in. Background research, which is going to involve A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Mm,
right? Market testing, if it's that, which may involve me doing a mock-up of my site or using somebody else's platform or observing somebody else's platform or using somebody else's platform as an end user to see how well that works, right? So you identify broadly. We know that you would know everything at this stage. They just want to know broadly what are some of the things that you can see already this is going to require, where the development aspect is concerned. The planning part wouldn't be hard in terms of answering that aspect of the question, because you just have to look up. You've already had the lecture, so you just have to look up and identify what would be the broad components of whichever plan that you are supposed to be developing. The development
mhm.
now, you just have to look at those components and say, okay, so what's one or two of the things that I may need to do to be able to do a particular component then. So if, for example, in your strategic marketing plan, more than likely you have to do five forces analysis. You have to do a
Yeah.
competitor
Otherwise,
analysis, right? You have to do a competitor analysis, so you're going to approach that by doing a five forces analysis. So when you come to the development part, okay, so this is going to be developed by using these tools, techniques, and analyses. Five forces analysis, background research, situational analysis. Does everybody understand now? And that is the part where you said initially is relevant. So then we go back to our toolkit, and we identify, based on those two lectures we had where strategic assessment was concerned, to identify what are some of those tools and techniques that would be relevant now to whatever plan we are doing, and we would articulate that there as well. Does everybody understand now?
so budget and those things not coming in this proposal.
No, no, no. It's 5 pages. All you're doing is trying to encourage this person to give your project the nod. If it was in the real world scenario, you wouldn't necessarily have a budget, not this kind of a proposal. In the plan is where your budget will come, whatever
Okay.
plan you're doing.
So do in my development to be approached that part of it, do I state that I would have to outsource certain things, or that we leaving that for the plan?
You can say that. You can also say it will involve financial assessment that would include budget analysis, cash flow analysis. You can also say those things right here now.
Okay,
You
thank
see,
you.
remember the course is assuming that you all have a sense of these things because of the courses that you have done already and what you're doing. That is why the proposal comes to the end of the semester, because certainly by now there's certain key things you would have done in marketing and strategy that would help you to articulate some of this. And
Yeah.
still I did the two lectures that you could have seen how some of those things locate within here.
Okay, I think
Everybody, yeah,
somebody else
everybody
will go.
understands that. Anybody else had a question or concern about that? Weren't too sure about what I was saying there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Janelle.
No, you go ahead, Naomi.
All right. No, I was just going to say I lost where exactly you were indicating we should include those considerations that you just told Melina there.
That's the development part of it here.
All right, good. Thank you. I lost that.
Project planning and development
All
to be
right.
so we know how project planning is to be approached because we know what plan we're doing and we go give a breakdown of the component. So how is the development going to be approached? Okay, well, we're going to use these particular tools and techniques and analyses
Good.
to be able to develop this project or this venture. Yes, Janelle.
It was the same question.
Okay,
Done.
awesome. Jeremy, you cool? Alimal, Hillary,
Yeah,
Psyche?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
gets
yes.
there.
okay. It says to give justification for the approach being proposed. And I believe you would have had to give some kind of justification when you did your proposal form. But it's basically like saying why you think a feasibility plan would be the best thing for this venture that you're proposing at this time, why you think a business plan would be the best, or why a strategic marketing plan.
Okay.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
That's all that's basically asking. So why that plan that you've chosen, what you think that is the best plan to use at this particular stage of the life of this venture, whether it's now new or emerging or there or whatever. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense to you all? I think in doing a proposal such as this, it really helps now to pull it all together. And then last but not least, what is the expected outcome to be derived? And this is at this particular point in time, one could get you could identify like a three expected outcomes, but I find that they should follow the SMART rules: specific, measurable, realistic, even time. So like for my creators clinic, I always say an expected outcome is that within a year I will have X amount of clients then, and that the business is going beyond break even, operating, remaining in operation online. So, what are your expected outcomes? You could articulate yours as one big one, or you might have two or three that you are seeing as real targeted things that you believe the business can make that impact. Nothing airy fairy, real. So, for example, in the example I gave of the ACAM project with the pole dancing, her thing was one of her expected outcomes was to empower women, to give them a space and a context that they could be empowering themselves in a more innovative way and at the same time dealing with health issues. Because, of course, from what I could see pole dancing, like, hey, easy. I don't know if I could do that one. I admire those women. You see? So, that was an expected outcome, which to this day it seems as though the business is achieving that. So expected outcomes can be qualitative and they can be quantitative. That's the whole point of it. Or it could be a mixture. Comments or questions about that, please?
I think it's more like clear.
Yes.
So
Okay. All right, class. Are there any general questions you want to ask me about the course or what you have to do? Where we're at now? We've basically covered this, and this was the focus for today.
Hi, Dr. Tal.
So this
Yes.
We were speaking about the how of the
Mhm.
project planning and the development. We were talking about justification for the approach. In
Mhm.
terms of a feasibility plan,
Mhm.
uh, just to be clear, the feasibility plan will, the justification there will be all the different parts of the feasibility plan there.
No, 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 no. The all the different parts of the feasibility plan is where you discuss this part here. How is the project planning to be approached? You say the project planning will be approached by way of using a feasibility plan that will entail the following, that will broadly entail the following components. You know them.
Okay,
Development, how the development is to be approached, we'll be using whatever analytical tools.
right. Okay.
We have a justification for the approach. Why is it that you're using a feasibility plan for that business? Well, one of the obvious ones is new and emerging, not had in the region before, but it has strength, and the feasibility is being used to bear out the strong points of the business venture. Right?
Uh,
So that justification means here.
okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else?
It's Hillary here. In terms of the business plan, which I have to do, isn't this I have to follow that same method?
Which one? Which method?
I,
You know, in
I,
terms of how you
um,
approach
yeah,
answering this?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yours is a business plan, so you wouldn't put down the same things that Janelle put for feasibility, but it's the same approach you're using in terms of answering the question. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
All right. Remember, class, you had a lecture on each one of the plans. So you go back to that particular lecture, the recordings, and listen to guide you as to how you would do that last part.
Okay.
Do you understand? So for your business plan, you would say, well, it's a business plan you're using, and what are the broad components of business plan that that would entail? Then what are some of the analytical tools you're using to be able to build out the business plan? And then you say why you're using a business plan for that particular venture.
Okay.
So
All right.
on the way that you have to be able to justify why your business plan is the suitable document to use at this time to carry out the planning.
Right.
Right.
Dr. Tal, would you say that with regards to the expected outcomes, would you say that investors, would you say that the qualitative or the quantitative outcomes would appeal more to them? Which of the two you think they would be more receptive towards, or do you think it could be a mix of both?
It should be a mix of both. That depends on the character of the investor. If it's Republic Bank, they're interested in the quantitative. If it's somebody like a Chinese laundry, he interested in both. You see? So and this is where, in the real world scenario, that's where it's good to always do research on who you may be approaching, because that will help to determine, not that you're cooking the book, but it helps you to determine what you would emphasize as expected outcome. You might have a range of expected outcomes, but if you know you're going before Branson to get some money, you're going to bring out the expected outcomes that you know are more likely to appeal to him. That does not mean you will forsake ones that are important to you. You just will mix them in, if you follow what I'm saying. No, you don't know who is the investor you're going towards. We don't have investors for you. So you are being trained here to imagine who might be interested as a potential investor in a project such as yours, and therefore How do you speak to them about these expected outcomes that you have? You're not cooking your expected outcomes to suit their character, but you would certainly list them in a particular order of priority. Where after having devised them according to what you believe is the potential of your project, you then arrange them in the order of priority that would probably attract them or appeal to them. Does that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
That
So
makes
to help you to formulate them, that's why I gave the suggestion in terms of one can think of them like some could be qualitative, expected outcome might be quantitative, because it might be about making money by X amount of time, and some can be a combination, because sometimes, like in the case of my creative clinic, I wanted to make money, but at the same time I want to be sure that it is impacting on the development of his clients, you see. So that's a mixed one. That's qualitative with the quantitative. Or I could separate them out and end up with 3 or 2, you see, and that's okay.
yeah.
Any other questions about any aspect or anything in general? Naomi? Okay, maybe her thing is just
Sorry,
bubbling.
I'm good.
All
I'm
right.
going to close that door there. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. All right, class. I think I'm going to put a stop there. I don't think I necessarily have anything else. I want to share where this topic, this focus today is concerned. Next week, I want to check the calendar. I'm not sure if next week is our last class or is the week after, but I will send a message in the chat and let you know. But I know for sure we will be having my doctoral student, Mr. Farley Joseph, come and give a little chat. Is it next week? Why? Which class I tell this man to come into? I feel like telling the wrong class, you know. Yes, he's doing his doctorate.
All right.
I should have let this man come in all your class. But why I do that like that, boy? Why I mix that up? All right, I'll see. I'll try and find. See, I actually have Chinese laundry coming into my arts culture society class, but I should have put him here. Anyway, I'll find somebody else to come in. But I want to have Farley. He recently started an online platform to do with music.
Excuse me, Dr.
So
Tal.
yes,
When is that class and can we audit it?
you mean the laundry class?
Yeah.
That's on Tuesday, or you don't have class on Tuesday?
Yeah, we do. We have
Uh,
business strategy.
oh Lord, sorry. That my class starts at 6 though, and I can't remember what time I told him. I think I told him 6 o'clock. Yeah, that's next week. That heavyweight class is him and then nurse. I have just now. Is it next week? No, 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 no. Just now, just now, just now. No, no, no. Just now. No, no. Next week. Oh, is the following week.
Okay.
So I will still have classes the following week. I could remind you. Next
Okay.
week, I'm having Andre Hoy, who would have given the lecture to you all on fashion.
Yep.
Right,
Good.
right. But the
After that, we
following
had
week is,
COVIDness.
sorry?
I think after that, we had COVIDness.
Yes, that's
Well,
right.
that was in COVIDness, yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes. I like to do the guests. You see, that way I could get them for free. They won't tell me no. So, oh gosh, I'm still recording. Woo! I have to edit that. So I'll remind you all as to when that is.
Okay.